Hi, Damien and Marcus from 100 Not Out here. MP.
Yes, Damo?
We all know the importance of having a diary, but who wants a boring old day planner?
Not me.
Enter the Journey of Me.
Ta-da!
The incredible 8-month wellness journal designed especially for wellness peeps like you.
Yes, Damo, this beautiful 8-month wellness guide is filled with questions, planners, exercises, reflective notes and more. Endorsed by the Up for a Chat girls and loved the world over, the Journey of Me is a must-have if you're ready to live your best life for life.
To purchase your very own Journey of Me and receive a free set of inspirational postcards, simply enter the code COUCH at www.wellineu.com. That's www.wellineux.com.
TheWellnessCouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, featuring your hosts Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
I'm Julie Tenner, and today's podcast is sponsored by Karmic Cold Pressed Juices. And we really wanted to meet with this gorgeous business because before we brought them on as a collaborator with our retreat, we wanted to make sure that our ethos was so aligned with any business that we bring in. And so we have just had the most amazing meeting with the founders of Karmic, and we're just in a little bit of rapture with them, to be honest. We were a little bit reticent because what we're going to talk about today is what is healthy, and Bridget and I have both been thrashing out what this means over the last couple of years.
Yes.
So both of us have come from different versions of I'm going to say, puritanical health into what is more of a grey area around melding not so much the black and white, but finding what that sweet
finding
spot
where
in the
that
middle.
balance is, you know, coming to a place where what does balance look like?
Exactly. So Karmic offers a range of what we mean by cold pressed juices is that they're not heated, so you don't lose any enzymes in from the fruit and vegetables. So they're low fructose, they're fresh, they're freshly made, and you have up to 3 days to consume them. So they're legitimately a fresh juice that maintains all of the enzymes. That's what cold press means. And so we were thinking that sounds amazing, but health for us has become so much more than just what we put in our mouths. And so we met with these people, and we are just so in love with the fact that their business is built on essentially spirituality and an intent to align their soul purpose through helping people peel back their layers through a physical means, sure, but totally aligned with what are the revelations that you have during that experience. Because when we start health, peeling back what the physical is, it's almost like a roadmap to, oh my God, there's this insight, because now I can just listen to myself. It's a little bit clearer that I can listen to that intuition a little bit more. And we both really love that. We were eating it up in that meeting where we were like, oh, this is perfect, because this is just exactly what we're about. It's about what is healthy more than what are we putting in our mouths. But this is, we're offering a retreat and a spiritual experience to do that. They're offering a pathway in terms of physical taking in that they then align.
And that's what I love, that, you know, the underlying reality of doing something like a cleanse is that it's not just about that physical cleanse, it's about what that process of detaching yourself from perhaps the attachments that you may have to certain foods, about what that then helps you to reveal about yourself.
Yeah, totally.
You know, taking in those nutrients, yes, but also allowing you to explore what's coming up in your mind and kind of in your feelings around health and around who you are, and it becomes a spiritual journey unto it itself.
I feel like that can feel scary, though. The thought of deprivation, I feel like can feel scary. And I've certainly come from that background of, if I can't eat, I feel like I would be so deprived, I would start to go crazy. But look, I've done every diet, you know, imaginable, and I have done a 7-day juice fast, not the Karmic one. I would be really delighted to do that. What I like about Karmic is they offer a shorter version, so they offer just a 2-day one.
Yeah, it's a 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, but what I really want to talk about is what cleansing actually means. So when we're talking about health, it's the same thing. So the biology of what a cleanse purposely does is, yes, we have structures in our body that work to eliminate the rubbish. Theoretically, the bits that our bodies don't know how to pull apart, that don't have the enzymes for. So there's lots of chemicals and all sorts of stuff now that we don't have the genetics, let's say, to have the enzyme to pull that chemical apart now, because it's too recent in our genome.
Yes.
So our body goes, oh my God, I don't know what to do with that, and I can't put it through the liver, so I'm just going to tuck it away in the fat cells, because the fat cells act like storage files for all of the things that the body doesn't know what to do with. So the reason why we lose a lot of weight in a cleanse is for several reasons of detoxing. It's not so much For me, it's not so much the fact that you're actually physically making those organs work better. It's the fact that you start to, one, lose attachment to putting things in. Two, you start to mentally cleanse right at the same time. Three, it allows your body the kind of breathing space because it's a slowing down. You find your whole life slows down when you start to cleanse, which is a beautiful space opening for intuition. And so your body, your fat cells kind of go, safe to let this stuff go. And that is a physical as much as an emotional belief system stuff. Let's just let that flow out so we can get rid of it again. So the fat cells open up these toxins, and I think you could even take that metaphysically into belief systems and emotions. And therefore, these filing cabinets are no longer needed. So the fat cells shrink, so we lose weight. But this is the purpose of a cleanse, is when we're feeling congested, foggy, saturated, at a roadblock in our health, be it physical or emotional. This is the whole purpose of a cleanse. Is how do you...
to break through.
How do you break through? So I want you to think about it less of deprivation, because, look, you can still eat while you're cleansing as well. I don't think it has to be one or the other. There's just a spectrum of what you can do. And the point is that we really have to come at health from the point of intuition and pleasure.
And also, you know, really looking at the perspective and perceptions that you're bringing to a choice that you're making. You know, you can choose to see a cleanse as deprivation, or you can choose to see it as the ultimate form of love to bring yourself back into balance. You know, to really kind of look at nourishing yourself, whole body, mind and spirit, you know, and what kind of process like that do to reveal more of who you are to yourself, which is beautiful.
I know, it's so powerful. I feel like it can feel scary for some listeners. I'm pretty sure I said something similar to clients and had them go, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah, and you know, like I say this, but I haven't done one, so you know, it's all theory.
What I really love is looking at even a cleanse being much gentler than that. So you would use things like what Karmic offers, the range of juices that have enzymes and nutrients that cleanse, but at the same time you can look at just scaling your diet into whole foods or foods that you're deeply desiring, as opposed to restricting and being black and white, good and bad. Let's just remove that and come back to what is it that my body deeply craves. And if you can't even if I say to you, how do we get back into intuition? What are your deepest desires? What is your heart just yearning for? And if you don't know what that answer is, you've got to start with the little ones. So the way to get to the big stuff is through the little stuff first, and your intuition starts to go, that message is getting clearer. And those little steps are things of honouring your body and honouring your health and listening to that craving out of a point of sensuality, not craving out of a point of punishment or guilt. So that's the difference between, you and I were talking earlier, I really feel like an ice cream. But come on, is that because, you know, which is that? Is that what is that? What were the words you were saying
it was
to me?
like, you know, I was, you know, I'm just trying to understand, well, first of all, what was I thinking right before that? Because was it an emotional, like, quick, you know, give me an ice cream to shove in my mouth?
Because I want sweetness.
Because I want sweetness, I'm not giving something to myself. Or is it, I just want to enjoy a delicious ice cream? Yeah. We decided it was a letter and we had an ice cream and it was amazing.
But that's the difference, isn't it? Is sweet sugar cravings the sweetness is almost like a sensation override. It's a way of shutting off feelings because it gives us almost a high that we can just sail through as opposed to sitting in. Yes. But how do you know the difference between when you're emotionally eating and when you're really deeply listening to a craving is the feeling you get out of it. So are you able to sit in that and just relish it? Love the feeling and the sensation of the smell and the sight and the taste and the sliding down your throat. You just love all of that? Or are you thinking, oh shit, I'm going to have to run for 5Ks now, or that's definitely going on my thighs? Yes. Because that's the difference, right?
Exactly.
And if you're thinking that stuff, then I would invite you to go a little bit deeper into what are the belief systems that you have there around your self-worth, around your body, and therefore around your self-love. And really the pathway to all of those for me is through sensuality. So we've talked in previous podcasts that sensuality is about connecting to the senses. And for me, sensuality is the base of where health comes from, because as soon as we can become aligned with what sensually lights up our soul. So how we experience our soul's bliss is through our physical human form, is through the senses. So that music that makes your heart break, and that taste that delights you back to your childhood, and that smell that has you feeling romanced, and that touch that has you, you know, in rapture. These
or music, or you know, like some kind of audio or something that just makes your heart open with inspiration.
Exactly.
Where it feels like your soul is talking to you, just
and
to
it literally
awaken
is.
you.
That's what our senses are. That's what our divine feminine offers us, is opportunity to connect with our soul through human experiences. And when we look at our diet through that, it becomes perfect, in commas, for you. Because what is sensually awakening and pleasing and therefore nutritious for you is completely different to what it is for me.
Yes.
And at different times of the day, and you and I would be potentially on different menstrual cycles, so at different times of the month, we're going to be needing and craving different things. And if we're coming from a place of worshipping this human vessel as opposed to punishing and shoving down, health, you don't need someone else to tell you what it is. Your guiding intuition automatically takes you there. And if you can feel amazing while you're doing it, and you feel amazing after you've done that thing, then that's health. Because when you are just lit up, which is what sensuality offers you, and when you live a diet and a life from that point of seduction, which is the world seducing you, how does your food seduce you? How does that sight seduce you? How do you allow yourself to be open enough to be seduced? That's vulnerable, right? How do I allow my hips to take up enough space that I feel seduced by the air around it? You know, like, this is big, deep body love stuff.
It is.
But it all comes down for me to this very simple point of sensuality. And we can totally live our diets from there.
So what do we say, I suppose, because, you know, you and I have both had these journeys of feeling, you know, very kind of like black and white, that's healthy, that's not.
Yes, oh my Lord, I was the poster girl for that.
Yeah, and perhaps let's go into that a little bit. Hey,
yeah,
you know, your experience.
Okay, so you've got to remember, I have come from a different upbringing. So I had the hippie dad who grew up with the mantra, white bread, soon dead. And then by the time I was in my mid-teenage years, had cancer. Right, so this is fascinating, isn't it? This organic, right, you hear about this so much.
Yeah.
The organic person who got cancer. Because how crazy is that? Because that organic person is not supposed to get cancer because they're eating the very foods that don't contain cancer.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Why isn't it the dude down the street who's eating a kilo of butter and smoking cigarettes?
Yeah, he's on.
Why doesn't he get cancer?
What about the guy who eats Maccas every day?
Exactly, right. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm 15 and my dad has cancer. And he has cancer caused by asbestos. So at that point in time back then, that was terminal. That was fast-acting cancer. No survivor had lasted longer than 3 months. And so my dad decided at that time, which was incredibly radical and certainly not in the peer group that he was in, that he would go completely alternative, that he wouldn't even look at chemotherapy or radiology because he saw that as taking away from life quality as opposed to adding life extension, because there weren't the statistics that said that it did.
Yeah, right.
So then you got to remember, between 15 and 19, those 4 years, my whole family life shifted to being around puritanical health. So I journeyed every cancer therapy with my family in that. You know, I nursed my dad in the last couple of years and cooked all of his foods, and I took him to practitioners and, you know, all of this stuff. So I had this huge awakening on puritanical health. I then moved from that straight into naturopathic college. And so there's 5 years of this bombardment of awakening of what health meant. And oh my God, the world is poisoning me. And unless I'm living on some, I don't know, Iceland somewhere, breathing pure air and probably drinking filtered rainwater or something, I'm literally never going to survive.
Yeah.
Like, I got so caught in that point of everything was killing me. So I was strictly organic, or I was strictly gluten-free, because that was the devil.
Yeah.
And then there's, you know, refined everything is just literally
Poison.
poison, total poison. And then you've got your plastics and your Glad wrap and your L-foil, which are all leaching things into my world. And then the scent, every time I walked into someone's house or into their car, they were casting, like, just, you know, the whole world was killing me. But you know, that's totally where I was at. And so I would go out for dinner and I wouldn't eat X, Y, or Z because it wasn't
in your rules.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't in my rules. So I now look at me back there with such love because I felt so deprived in that.
Yeah.
There were so many just stacking one on top of the other of, I don't know, pain and guilt and them and me and, I don't know, putting myself on a pedestal. Well, I'll be better. I'll be better than that person, or I'll live longer, or I'll be healthier because I'm
like a self-righteousness.
Yeah, totally. Totally. So I totally journeyed. And to be honest, starting off as a practitioner, I probably had to be.
Yeah.
Because and part of that served me, right? So I did all of the hard yards of the health industry.
Yeah.
Therefore, I knew it all. Therefore, I could heal my clients the way that I had been taught and knew as being a healthy lifestyle. And so then I had kids and I took that on board. And so I certainly, you know, have moved through so much with being very, very strict with what enters their body. Like my son, we still laugh about it. My son's nearly 10, but there wasn't a refined, non-organic sugar, anything that touched his lips for the first year of his life. And the first time I allowed him anything was on his first birthday cake. And that kid sat there and nearly ate that whole fucking cake. And we laugh now because he's the biggest sugar addict out of any of my kids. But he was the one I was the strictest with.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah.
And so look, through my kids, I've certainly pulled that apart, and it was becoming difficult because we would go to birthday parties and I would bring food. So my kids weren't allowed to eat the party table food. I would bring them substitutes. And I was completely fine with that, and I listened to the feelings that they had about that of not being happy and being deprived. But gee, birthday parties were stressful for me.
Yeah.
They were stressful for my kids. They didn't enjoy them. And the older my kids got, the more that turned into anger towards me. So what is health?
Yes. What
Right?
is health?
So then I moved into the school years, and I've said before, I met this amazing group of mums who just opened up the gifts of unconsciousness to me.
Yes.
And I started to take a little bit of that and filter down what I was doing to myself and with my kids' food intake. And the pleasure and the community and companionship that came out of not creating distance, them and me, I'm better, you're wrong stuff, created such a holistic version of health that I looked beyond what was going in their food.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you crazy stories. Well, I still feel a little uncomfortable with artificial colours. I'm still working on my stuff with that because I just know so much about artificial colours and the chemicals that are in them and the way that they're produced in a laboratory that health is still one of my main value systems. So I still feel a little bit challenged by even saying this stuff. And my son had the most outrageous reactions to artificial colours. Like outrageous. I remember him being 3 once and his dad had taken him to the movies and he had popcorn that obviously had colour on it, and he came home and for the next, his reactions lasted 3 days, took 3 days to get out of his system. He was a horror. He was that kid whacking everybody at playgroup, and instead of me enjoying playgroup, I'm running around trying to prevent him from hurting every other child. He couldn't listen, he couldn't sit still, his eyes were fluttering everywhere, his body wouldn't stop jerking, he wasn't sleeping well, and then it kind of escalated to these points of anger where he kicked our front window and it smashed. Like, I'm not kidding, like extreme reactions to artificial colours.
Wow.
And so I cracked down really, really hard on those. And then about 2 years ago now, he challenged me on that, and he started sneaking them at school. And it culminated in this one time when he was having this huge emotional outburst after school, and it went on for like 6 hours. And I could not for the life of me pinpoint where this had come from. And it wasn't until the next day, or not even that night, I was pulling apart his lunch bag and I found this tube of this ridiculous stuff that he'd clearly eaten and stuffed this tube in his bag. That was probably a silly move not to throw it out. And I asked him about it the next day, and sure enough, a kid at school had given it to him and he really wanted it. And so he ate it before I could even see him because he didn't want to have it taken away.
Yeah.
And it was that moment I realised, here's another opportunity that I'm being offered as a mother. Here's where I'm controlling. Here's where I need to hand over his power of his body to him. It's not, I don't own his body. I can't control his body anymore, right? He's nearly 9, or was then.
Yeah.
I can't, it's not my right to own his body. And it is my belief that I want to hand the tools of health to my kids so they know how to heal themselves. Not that I have the toolkit and I control what happens, but that they have the tools.
You want to give them the knowledge, the tools, the way to access it.
And the freedom to say, okay, but if I choose this, here's how I get myself back to balance.
And the reality is that often the way for them to access it is to understand all the ways that, you know, can go wrong, in inverted commas, you know, to actually learn from the times when they have felt unhealthy or sick, to know how to get back from that.
That's exactly right.
You know, you can't prevent those things.
That's exactly right. So then we had this huge discussion about, okay, Heath, you want this control, I'm going to give it to you, but here's what I want you to do before you choose to eat that thing. I want you to think about what options you have here, and you have 3. One is eat it, one is not take it, and we trade it at home. Or 2 is actually, no, that's true. So eat it or trade it. We say trade at home. So he brings home whatever he has and I trade him with whatever he can have at home, like a mutual exchange.
Yeah.
So eat it or exchange it. And if he chooses to eat it, then he has to know if he has a reaction, here's his list of, which we've workshopped, we call it his way back to balance, list of things to move his anger and his emotional outbursts through his body in a constructive way so that he can get back to balance. And if he doesn't eat it, then he comes home and he says to me, now, either way, I don't judge him for it.
Yes.
This took a lot of work on my behalf.
Yeah.
We role-played it with lollies. Here, Heath, I'm the person in the schoolyard offering you an artificial lolly. And he had to go, I'm stopping and I'm thinking and I'm doing, like, we had so much fun doing it, right? It took all of my anger and my angst and it made it pleasurable.
Yes.
Because we spent probably 40 minutes role-playing different scenarios with lollies.
And, you know, this is a perfect gift, isn't it? Because our children are always reflecting us to us.
Oh, my gosh. Didn't you get me to own it? But here's the kicker. He chose, after we had that conversation, to eat artificial lollies, and he had a big reaction once. The next time he did it, 0 reaction.
Ah.
Isn't that fascinating?
That is interesting.
And not long and like there's not...
And did you have a shift in that time?
Totally.
So you had a massive shift.
I had totally removed it. I was like, okay, dude, whatever.
So you know what? Because you shifted it, he no longer had to create that.
Isn't it fascinating?
Reaction.
Isn't it fascinating?
Because it's you.
I know. So then I sit there going, why am I so hung up on organic and on, you know, still for me...
It calls into question everything,
doesn't it? That's my point.
Yes.
Is ultimately, is my belief systems really what alters what health is, as opposed to physically what's going into their body? Because sure, I could map out where those artificial colours are gone and the reaction he was having, because he was legitimately having a reaction. I couldn't manipulate that.
Yes.
But as soon as I changed my belief system around it, he stopped reflecting it.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Oh, it's fascinating, isn't it?
I
still feel like I've got layers to peel back there because you and I, we run the co-op, right, which is organic.
Yeah.
And that is still, for me, I still choose that because I still have issues with conventional.
And I would still choose that. You know?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that if I have the choice between there's no broccoli and organic this week and there's broccoli that's conventional, previously I would have not eaten the broccoli because it would have killed me. Now I'm like... let's have the broccoli.
Because I mean, some broccoli is better than no broccoli.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk about what organic is to start off with. So organic basically is a style of farming that eliminates sprays. So pesticides and herbicides and fungicides. And I'm not sure if there's anything else that they use. The main issue I have is the pesticides, because they're designed to kill organisms that we have biological processes that we share.
Yes.
So if I'm ingesting pesticides that are designed to kill the very life processes that I have, what is that doing to my body? So I'm still peeling that back because I look at what we just talked about with Heath, and in the end, is it a belief system and it wouldn't matter anyway?
Yeah.
Or is it legitimate? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to peel that back, but we're just opening up what this topic is.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, it's one of those things that you can continually peel back because we are living this in this moment. You know, we're having a human experience of some of our biggest charges, and when you're in those, trying to understand what those mean, you know, those kind of challenges that we have around these beliefs that we've held strongly about, there's so much wrestling that goes on about, you know, what it means. Like, you know, is it really important? I mean, a really common study that's cited around organic versus conventional is this idea of these 5-year-old school children in New York, and, you know, 20 of them were in a conventional, so 20 of them in the classroom had conventional fruit and vegetables and 20 had organic. And the 20 who had conventional, they urine tested both, and the ones who had conventional had lots of all of these chemicals in the urine. And so a lot of people, organic proponents, will say, oh, well, of course that means organic's best because the urine came out clean for the organic kids. But that's not necessarily true, because all it means is that the body really efficiently excreted all of the chemicals that were in the conventional food because it came out in the urine, right?
It's controversial,
It
Bridget.
is, but that's the thing, you know.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's sometimes taking things on face value is not all it's cracked
That's
up to
exactly
be, you know,
right.
like, because that's a lot of what, you know, whenever you measure something, there's always a room for error, you know, and as soon as you measure it, it responds differently because you're looking for an outcome.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking for a proof point.
Yeah.
You're looking for proof that the organic kids came out cleaner. But what is it not telling us about how then the body processed the conventional for the other kids?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's really interesting. And so, you know, this whole idea of what is health, well, it's a spectrum, you know, and it's so much influenced by your own belief systems and the own emotional baggage that you carry around your own voids of health.
That's exactly
and what
right.
health looks like.
Yes.
You know, your example, Julie, your story, it's such a massive journey over sort of a
Yeah, it is.
15, 20-year period of being Puritan to
Yes.
being comfortable with your kids
Yes.
eating crap.
Yes.
You know, like,
Yes, it is, Bridget. Golly gosh, there's part of me that goes, really, your kids eat crap, Julie? What are you doing? But there's so many gifts in that.
it is. And it's about seeing that health is so much broader than what we put in our mouth. You know, the social engagement that health, that having the attitude that you now have gives to your children.
Yes.
You know, there's not that ostracism, there's not that sense of missing out.
Yes.
You know, there's not that sense of, you know, like being controlled by their mother
Yes.
that there once was. And then the
So
dynamic.
control, deprivation and isolation are all potential things that come out of being stringently on a health kick.
On a massive health kick.
And therefore, what is the ramifications of those, even on an energetic, physical, and therefore and physical manifestation of those?
Yeah.
So this is what we're trying to say is what is health. The long and the short of this is the path to health is not necessarily what is external to you, but what is internal to you.
And that's it. You know, that's the invitation that we had at the beginning, was to tune in, really, because your body, your physiology is always giving you feedback.
Yes.
Always.
Always.
It's just getting it close enough and present enough to listen to what it's actually asking of you, what it's reflecting to you.
That's exactly right. And it's amazing to me, the more we deal with our belief systems and our emotions around, particularly with food, the more our physiology changes. We have the potential to change our very physiology or our physical appearance by changing simply our belief systems.
Yes.
So I'm going to say to you here, like, I've always done hardcore exercise and hardcore health. And at this time in my life, after I had my miscarriage, I decided I needed to move less from the masculine and more into the feminine. And I cut out all exercise. Decided I need to sit and be rather than doing anything.
Yes.
And then beyond that, I now swim. But I only swim twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, and I do it for as long as feels good. If it stops feeling good, I stop. So sometimes that's 10 minutes, sometimes that's 40 minutes. But the point is, I've never eaten, I'm going to say in commas, worse, and I've never exercised less, but I've never been healthier and slimmer.
Wow.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah.
So I've changed, and my body has always been a major issue for me, my body weight, you know, and where it sits and, you know, all of that sort of jazz. And the more that I've come into alignment with loving my feminine, which is not loving the girly lipstick side, that's just loving the vessel that is woman and the gifts that she has to offer, and the physical, even if I can't love my body and I can't rub oils and look at myself in the mirror naked, that can be a whole other step. Stepping it back from that is just enjoying the feeling that my body gives me, the taste on my tongue when I eat something that I love, hearing the music and seeing how that makes my heart feel in my chest.
Even just stretching down to do up your shoes and the feeling of, you know, stretching up through your body.
Yes, exactly. So the more I've done that, the more in tune I've become with my body, the more I've followed my pleasure and my sensuality, the less I've needed to hang on to the weight. Because I don't need to hang on to the belief systems that are sitting in those fat cells.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
But I really do think sometimes it can be confusing if you have lost touch with what the divine feminine is within you, what sensuality, sexuality and seduction is within you, and you know far less about health than, I'm going to say, like, I would know. I know a lot about health because of where I've come from, so I get that can be hard to navigate if you don't know that stuff. then starting small is the way to go. So you might go and see a practitioner, you might go and do a karmic juice.
And all of those things serve, right? Because, you know, for me even, like, you know, exactly, like, you know, you and I have had lots of conversations, and I'm sure you reserve judgment very kindly for a lot of things that I was journeying.
Oh, Bridget, the time I've known you, I've bit my tongue a lot.
Yeah, because I really had to come to that place too.
I really want to know about that, because when I first met you, you were really troubling some stuff.
Oh my gosh, like I wouldn't even put my son in like conventional daycare because I had to send him with his own food, right? Like I couldn't handle the jam on sandwich, and you know, like any suggestion of cake was just like, no way, you know.
Yeah.
You know, for me, like I really saw that my body had failed me, and that I was kind of traveling this journey of having PCOS and sort of my body not doing what it should, and, you know, potentially kind of injecting this belief that I had like gut health issues or whatever. And really sort of saying, oh my gosh, everything I've done up to now I didn't know enough, and therefore I now need to remedy that through not eating gluten, not eating refined sugar, you know, analysing everything that passes my lips, and, you know, making sure that everything is kind of fermented or kind of had some kind of richness to it. And it really became quite almost stressful. And again, like
because it was obsessive.
It was obsessive.
Because if it wasn't that, you were adding to your infertility.
Yes, you know, and I would judge other people for what the choices that they were making, and I would like not eat at certain places because the food, like it was outside my rules, which is all the things that you said that
totally.
you journeyed.
I so get that.
But, you know, I couldn't have come to the place that I'm at now if I hadn't journeyed that, you know, like, because I now, similar to you, I now feel, you know, more healthy, I'm more fertile than I've ever been. And yet, you know, I had an ice cream, and, you know, yesterday I had, I don't even know what I had yesterday, because I'm not analysing now. Like I'm going with what, you know, it feels right. And I'm eating food from a place not of control anymore. Yeah. You know, like I still choose to nourish myself with good food.
So the point is, it's not from the point of abuse either. So you're not saying, well, I'm just going to eat everything out of a packet because I can't be asked doing any cooking or whatever. You're saying I still know all of the health stuff. Yeah. I just don't follow any one rule. No. I know that this gives my body this, and I know this gives my body this gives my soul and my heart this.
Exactly. And I think sometimes too on that health journey, you can often start to inject other people's values. You know, you'll follow Instagram, or you'll follow these people who you put up on a pedestal as being more informed than you somehow, and then you start to listen to what they say and inject their advice, and then you start to get further and further away from what your own inner wisdom is telling you. And so your body is then going to respond with potentially not healing the very disease that you're trying to heal, because your body wants you to find that for yourself. You know, your body wants you to tap into that own wisdom that you have inherently in you, and not inject what everybody else thinks, to actually tune into what's true for you. And, you know, what your mind is driving your body to create, to help you wake up to your own story and your own truth.
So what are you drawn to? Yeah. So when you're trawling those Insta feeds, what are you drawn to?
Yeah.
Is it the raw dessert, and you're just not taking the time to honour your body enough to give it to yourself?
Are you honouring, you know, it might not even be that you want to physically eat that raw dessert, but that you're enjoying the beauty that offers your senses. Yeah. You know, sometimes it might not even invoke the hunger, but rather just the, you know, because some of those...
appetite in other areas of your life.
Some of those desserts are just amazing artistic creations that you just want to admire.
That's true.
You know, whether you, I mean, most of the time, I'd love a raw caramel slice, of course, but it's about, you know, questioning yourself, what is sitting with me when I see that? You know, how else could I give myself that same feeling that doesn't necessarily even need to be with the food, because sometimes the food's the vehicle to the mechanism. Sometimes it's not even about what it's actually needing to pass your lips.
Totally. I just love it.
Yeah.
So all of the beautiful women that come to our retreat, which is on the 8th of November, which if you'd like to book, there's still a small window for you to jump on in. These women are going to be nurtured and nourished at 2 different occasions with beautiful karmic juices. One to awaken the flow in the morning, and one to nourish the seduction in the afternoon. Yes. So I'm very inspired by that.
It's going to be gorgeous. And the retreat's not far away at all, so we encourage you to, if you're thinking about it, get in touch or dive in, because there's only a few spots left. And it's going to be a beautiful, nourishing day with lots of goodies that we haven't quite announced yet, but there's going to be some gorgeous things in the gift bags for everyone who comes along.
So that's on Facebook at Nourishing the Mother. And Bridget, to get in contact with Bridget, is at suburbansandcastles.com.
Yes.
And what movie have you got coming up?
So the next one is Project Wild Thing. So it's a fantastic platform for discussion around getting kids back in contact with nature, and also looking at screen use from a place of how can we kind of create more intention around it, because obviously, you know, technology is not going away and we don't want it to, but it's about how do we give our kids the tools to choose a bit more intentionally the kinds of technology and marketing that they consume, and how do we as parents not project our own stuff on that, you know, kind of deal with our own things that might come up for us about their screen use too, you know. So it's going to be a really interesting discussion for all the parents out there, or parents to be, around what it means to raise a child, I guess, in the 21st century.
I'm really excited to see that. And to get in contact with me at the moment is through Facebook or Instagram on Nourishing the Mother, or The Pleasure Nutritionist. And The Pleasure Nutritionist website and blog will be coming in the next couple of weeks.
Wonderful. So we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on the mothering journey.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/The Wellness Couch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.